Hello, everybody. Got my little thing sticking out there. Hi, we're going to get started. I'm just taking a moment to invite everyone. Come on in the room. 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 All right. Just doing a little inviting as per usual. I'm a little late getting started, but really on time. Still inviting. Welcome to our time together, the G-Spot Live. I introduced myself, but I realize most of you all already know me here. So if you're a new person joining, I'm excited to have you in this space, sharing this space with us. Well, let's see what Spirit brings forth today. Okay, I'm gonna stop now. Whew. Hello, everybody. Look at this little thing that wants to stay. Hey, good morning on the West Coast and good afternoon on the East Coast to everyone. How many of you were on the Sunday call and hey, Lexi, and you heard me sharing from my heart. This is my first time really in having a whole lot of conversation with humans outside of that morning. If you were there on Sunday, and there was something so special that happened on Sunday, and I know that the call has not been available, but I took a little minute during this Easter resurrection, spring equinox, goddess season to fill my own cup. So I'm coming to you overflowing and full today, and so my intention is not to be long today. I do want to check in with you all. Thank you, love. I want to talk to us who are growing forth in Goddess, particularly in this G-Spot live in the Good Girls Gone Goddess. Many of you I do know. Did I not do a recording for that? Oh no, I didn't do a video recording. I don't do video. So those of you who don't come on regularly, Wednesdays is where we do the video. Sundays is by phone because it's much easier for people who are worldwide and also not on Facebook to be able to call in. So Sunday is our ministry without walls, if you will. I haven't officially named it Rebirth Ministries, but Rebirth Sunday is the place for that inspiration on the phone. So you can roll out of bed if you want to and just join in on Sundays at 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. There was something very sweet that happened in the space on Sunday, and I still am full, and there... No, the other Sunday was just a technical glitch. The call shut down because of a human error, and so is a quick move to keep the momentum going. We moved it over to the Facebook Live that particular Sunday. So thank you for asking those questions. So I want to just go on and stay focused, which is, from Sunday, let's just say this weekend my life changed again. It's very difficult to even talk about it without getting emotional. And I'm just so grateful that I gave myself this opportunity. But I just want to talk to you all about suffering in silence for many of you who are on this journey. No matter whether your journey started with ReBirth International, with any of the ReBirth International programs, or your journey started somewhere else. Most of the times it did start somewhere else, because you even getting here, for anybody to work with me, they've traveled somewhere, and there has been a genesis and an exodus for sure. Now where you are after your exodus is where maybe rebirth comes in. But there's a genesis for everyone, and there's an exodus for everyone. And sometimes you may have several exodus experiences along your journey. That's very important to know. And like I said, I'm so full, and I'll just say this, and you're like, well, what did you do? We had an earth medicine ceremony, which I've mentioned to some of you who work with me, that those of you who are going along on this journey with me, particularly those who I get a chance to work with privately, and all of the alumni of the Juicy Spirit Rites of Passage process, you will have an opportunity at some point to experience some other things that. So don't think your journey is ever over, right? Don't ever think that your journey has stopped just because of the exodus. Whew, that's good. A lot of times we think that because of the exodus that we're free. And that's a mistake a lot of times. It's the beginning of freedom. But a lot of times when we walk around with the arrogance of I'm free, I'm free, I'm free, you don't know until you get an invitation to experience something else that exposes you to another level of yourself, honey. And I met myself on this journey. I explained on Sunday that I experienced astral travel in another way. So I'll share more about that later. But let's just say you get the benefit in here. Yes, Kathy, you got it. So I wanted to talk to those of you esteemed women, you beautiful, resurrected, enlightened souls. Some of you are my sisters. Some of you have become my daughters. Many of you are just other mothers walking on this journey with me. And the journey is yours. It's customized. You are writing the new book of Revelation. Your life is the new book of Revelation. And many people don't actually fool with Revelations too much because it's so codified. It has so much more to do with you being the New Testament in your life. And in order to do that, a lot of us who I end up talking to in private, who I witness and hold space to midwife you in processes, many of us have become so accustomed to suffering in silence. And I do mean even after your exodus, there is a place where so many go into either hiding, isolation, withdrawal, shutdown, or outright fight and flight. And it has become such a commonplace for so many of black women who are still wearing the cape of the strong black woman to go into these spaces to say, I got it, I can handle it, and not even aware. I was talking to a sister today who told me that, she had built up some momentum in her process. She was manifesting things that we had set in motion beautifully. She was actually receiving evidence of her power and her magic. And then she had a trigger. There was a life trigger that happened, and she's actually in one of the processes. She's actually in the Juicy You. And I said to her, why didn't you bring that to your process? Why did you hold it for 2 weeks until our private session when you're already in process? And what I want to propose to you, those of you who are, whether you've been in process before, whether you have graduated from processes, whether they are mine or someone else's, is when you are, first of all, as women, we have forgotten what process is. That's number one. We have forgotten what, and when I say we have forgotten, I mean that women are walking in a state of amnesia about who we really are, literally, figuratively, and metaphorically. And just because a woman has a vagina or identifies as female does not mean that she is tapped into her own womanhood. And so sacred process is and I don't and you could, and I'm not talking about commercializing. I'm not talking about people who commercialize whatever they have out here. This is there are some people who don't do the commercial in that way, who are not, who, I should say, they're custodians of sacred process. I consider myself a custodian of sacred process. And it's not something you can go get a coaching certificate, and not just because you have minister or reverend beside your name. It is something very different. And so as women, when we're in sacred process, we are literally rearranging our DNA. We're activating something in our DNA. And so she said things that you all hear all the time. I didn't think to ask for help. I didn't think to ask for help. And I want to start there with some of the symptoms so that we can really make a choice to interrupt it. And it's funny that I say choice, because choice is going to be some of the tools that I offer. A lot of times we think that we are operating in choice, but the truth that is, there's a difference between the Merriam-Webster's dictionary of what we have been taught to think of as choice when it comes to school, or when it comes to our way of being, or, we still sometimes are defining ourselves by the Merriam-Webster dictionary meanings of things versus our own definition through spiritual processes. And so we hear terms and we attach them to that which has been edited, which has been watered down. And so today, when I talk to you from the place of choice, I'm talking to you from the place of an offering, really not even saying that you have to accept what I'm saying, but offering something more beyond the choice that we make. And some of you already are aware of this, but it's easy to forget. So that's the second thing in terms of a symptom. When you begin this journey, one of the reasons why sacred process, being in communion and community, it's one thing to be in a community. We have over 500 people in this community at this time and growing. But there's only about 10% that are really active in growing forth in Goddess. Even if they are growing forth, or maybe they just came to watch or that type of thing. But it's easy when you are in or have had an exodus or a sacred experience to go into a place of forgetfulness. And it happens even to me. There are things that until I go into communion, because you can be in community and not be in communion. When I go into communion with the sacred truth of who I am around other people who are in sacred truth of who they are, when I go into communion with it, then I'm reminded. I get a chance to hear the language. I get a chance to hear their testimonies, not for the sake of knowing anybody's business, but when I hear my sister, I'm able to hear myself. When I understand that universal law says that there is no separation. And so the beauty of being in sisterhood, in tribe, and with women who are aware, women who are committed to the journey that you have started or the thing that you have activated, the beauty of being able to do that is that it keeps you refreshed, like refreshing the screen, so that you don't get little cookies, because the cookies that deposits itself on your computer, remember, you are the computer, and some of us are operating off of our hard drive, and some of us are operating off of our software, and if we have not updated the software, if we have not clean the hard drive, that many times we're operating in a space where it's easy to forget that you put something in a file and that file got stored away. Well, see, the thing is when you start doing this work, a lot of times we get uncomfortable with the idea of going into the files because, see, you didn't necessarily have a choice about what got deposited in your files, but something about your soul calling, especially when we start talking about the feminine, there's something about your soul calling that moves you in the direction to this type of beingness, this type of knowledge. And then the first thing a healer starts to do most of the time is detox you. You must go through the detox period. And sometimes a detox will produce a healing crisis. But when we get into the moment of the healing crisis, that's the place where it's easy to isolate, shut down, withdraw, and most of all, even forget. You can even believe, because your files can be so full of so much information that no longer is serving you, that you are familiar with those files. If your file is built on hell and damnation, if your file is built on fear-based theology and fear-based relationship with yourself, if your file is built on conformity and people-pleasing, if your file is built on fighting and toxic relating in communication, see, these can be your normal. And so when somebody comes in to say, we're not operating on that system anymore, just like your computer. When somebody says that system cannot allow you to do the kind of things that you want to do. You see, many people who are in graphic arts and design, they go get an Apple computer, because when they go get an Apple computer, they really are, people like Apple, because when you start to deal with music and graphic files and that type of thing, you don't get as many viruses. And so it's safe to move around and navigate the way you need to without having to shut down and then do a defragmentation. The defrag is a real thing in technology. Do I have any technology folks in the house today? And so what happens is, here we go now, and it's time for us to move to the next level on our journey, and the healing crisis will show up. And sometimes the healing crisis is not you. The healing crisis can look like the people around you, because the moment that you declare yourself to be a thing, to do a thing, to have a thing, everything unlike it begins to show up, to test you, to see you exactly where is it that you are, some way you're not committed, or some way where your muscles are weak. And you know when you say, I want to lose 20 pounds, and then you get invited to a luncheon, or your girlfriends invite you out and you want to have a good time. You want to have fun, but here you get tested, or maybe your husband brings home a piece of chocolate cake because your beloved knows that you like these things. And so here we go. You declared that I'm ready to get this weight up off of me. And then here comes every opportunity to eat. When you declare yourself to be a thing, to do a thing, or to have a thing, everything unlike it begins to show up. But what I want you to understand is that's supposed to happen. And what happens is when we still are operating on the old files, they focus a whole lot on behavior management. If I do this, then it guarantees me this. So if I be good, then God is gonna bless me. You know, that theology. If I tithe, and if I'm a good wife, how many of you have not had sex? I can tell you, I didn't have sex with my husband the first time that I was married. I didn't test out the equipment. I got lucky, but I didn't test out the equipment because I was in a religion that gave me some guidelines. And so I followed the guidelines. But what happens in your life when you follow all of the guidelines and life still happens? When there is no insurance policy, when there is no guarantee, when you've done everything right according to, you know what I'm saying? Y'all feel me up in here? You've done everything right. And so you have spent your life trying to make sure that you do it right, that you get it right, that you say it right. And then life starts to begin to happen to you and you start to feel punished. You start to wonder, what is it that I did wrong? How did I get here? And if I had known this, then I would not have made this choice. And sometimes you don't even get to that point. Sometimes there is so much judgment about not just your life, but other people. You can spend a lifetime blaming other people. And this is why when I start talking to women about the whole mother wound or the unmothered nature of the woman, it gets real touchy, because those files inserted by other people say, I'm not supposed to feel this way about my mother. So instead of feeling this way about my mother or my father, which translates in how I deal with men and the masculine, instead of dealing with that, what begins to happen is we start to turn in on ourselves. And so instead of dealing with the fear, dealing with the shame, dealing with the guilt, instead of feeling the way through it, there's a part of us that feels that we might break. Or if somebody found out exactly how it is, yes, I show up in the world as significant. Yes, I show up in the world as powerful. Yes, I show up in the world as capable. If I really let them know how insignificant I feel, how insecure I am, or how incapable I feel, then they won't love me. You understand what I'm saying? If I do this, then they won't love me. And some of us really believe that God won't love us and God won't bless us. And so therefore the judgment is easy. So it's easy to call a thing witchcraft. When you don't understand that when you look at the word witch, W-I-T-C-H, it has more to do with your relationship with nature. Well, you can't have a relationship with nature if you don't have a relationship with your own nature. But then there is W-H-I-C-H, which, meaning I have a choice in the matter. Many of us don't believe that we have a choice. And so we follow the paradigm that has been given to us through an inheritance. And so we don't question the inheritance, because sometimes inheritances are used to control you. Just ask the wealthy. See, this is not just a poor man's issue. Because wealthy people who have access to an inheritance, sometimes when it's time for them to show up in their life, they have to be willing to walk away from the inheritance, just like the prodigal son. See, the prodigal son is real interesting to me, because the prodigal son, he already had the inheritance. The prodigal son is something that is preached by hell and damnation preachers as the boy who came home, who came back to his father. But the thing is, when I listen to it from a psychologist, from a psychological view of the Bible, the prodigal son was really the most courageous, and his journey was necessary. So his father did not use the inheritance to control him. The father didn't even worry about his son. But when the prodigal son came home, it was the brother who stayed that judged him. I'm going to stop right. It was the brother who stayed that judged him. How dare you? I stayed. I'm the one who served faithfully. Come on now. How many of you have been serving other people's organizations? How many of you know that you've made money for other people? How many of you have taken care of your family and have not received it in return? How many of you have built certain things and you won when it came time for you to build for yourself? You thought you couldn't do it. Oh my God. But look here. And then when the person that's in the family that's considered the wild child and the rebel, then they're the ones that looked at crazy. But the prodigal journey is necessary. It's necessary because you don't even realize sometimes how attached you are to the files. The files. To tell you to do it this way and that way. But when it's time for a software upgrade, oftentimes when you get ready to upgrade your software, there comes a time that there's a choice. So I want to talk to you today from the place of being a co-creator with your own reality. Come on now. I want to make sure you heard me. I don't know where this syncopation and this thing is coming from it. And maybe it's just because the process just that I went through, I really don't give a damn anymore. I'm not there's no more holding back. And so if I sound like a preacher, it's just go with it, okay? If it sounds like this is a Wednesday midday service, just go with it. That's all right. I give myself away. I give myself away so that you can use me. I give myself away. So I'm just going to give myself away in this moment, because I just want to talk to you who have suffered in silence, comparing yourself to other people. See, you have social media right now that when your psychology is weak, when your sense of self is weak, you will look at everybody's posts and begin to judge your inheritance based off of what you see other people obtaining already in the now. Oh, yeah. Did I say that? Okay, yeah, let me go back to that. You'll start to look at what other people are doing and feel like something is being withheld from you. Some of you may even feel envy and jealousy that you don't know where it came from. You can get red hot mad because somebody looks like they are winning and you believe that you are losing. You believe that somewhere you have lost in your own story. And don't you get tired of being the loser in your own story? I know I did. And so in order to manage all of this, what we tend to do is go away, shut down, call it something else. And what we do is we won't call ourselves on our own bullshit. Because if you call yourself on your own bullshit, first of all, you got to have tools. You cannot call yourself on your own bullshit if you don't have tools. Get you some tools, sister. Get you some tools. And even if you have gifts, you still need tools to be able to open the gift. Ooh, that's good to me. What I'm saying to you, that many of you are gifted. You are seers. You can hear things. You work somewhere in the fivefold gifting. Some of you operate in the prophetic. Some of you operate in the psychic knowing. Some of you have the gift of song and healing and laying on hands. But sometimes if you don't have a teacher, and the word says, how can they have a teacher if they're not sent? Your teacher must be sent to you. And but many of us, because we've been shut down, because we've been isolated, because we've been clinging on to the old files and we won't do a software upgrade, we will fight the teacher. You understand what I'm saying? We'll fight them. The fight doesn't look like outright, I'm gonna fight you. It's passive aggressive fighting. It's a smart assness that tells yourself that, oh, I got this, and you know you don't have it. And so then by the time many of us ask for help, we're already in crisis. And so what we call asking for help really is crisis management. I'm getting hot up in here. Woo! Crisis management. That's what many of us have been doing, and that's not choice. Crisis management is not choice. And so I'm getting to give to you some ways that choice shows up. You feel me? Because I want my sisters. I want for my sisters what I want for myself. Anybody that knows me knows that this is my truth. I want for my sisters what I want for myself. You got to feel me on that. And this is why sometimes I go the extra mile when you shut down and stop walking, when you stop running, when you stop pressing on towards the high mark, when you start talking about what you can't do. But baby, you know that's a lie, because most of you are women who was able to manifest something out of nothing when it was something that you really wanted. And when you look back on it, you say, I don't know how I got that car. I don't know how I got that house. I don't know how this beloved walked up in my life. But when it was something that you really wanted, you did whatever it took to do it. But when it comes to you and yourself being a priority, your process being a priority, oh, every time you'll slink your way out and continue to suffer in silence. I know this because I've done it. I cannot tell you how many times I told myself that I was taking the high road. I'm taking the high road because I'm the one that has the tools. I'm the one that is the minister. I'm the one that knows better. I'm the one this, I'm the one that. I cannot tell you how many times I did this to myself. And when you do this to yourself, what begins to happen is over time, you build up a resentment. Because when you continue to take the high road and nobody knows that you are suffering, nobody knows that you are uncomfortable. When I don't care what it is. For me, it was little things. I remember that some of you have heard my story about going to an elder's house in my family who acted as if she did not want me there. So what I learned how to do, hey baby, what I learned how to do is I wouldn't go to the bathroom because the bathroom was not clean. And I didn't, and over time, for years, there would be times I learned how to hold myself, hold my urine, hold when I had a bodily experience, because I did not want to go into that bathroom because it would make me nauseous. Little things will translate into your life as a behavior. I could tell you where there are times when, when my mother used to say things like, "Why you?" Oh, my dog is eating all of the food off of the altar because I turned my head for a moment. Excuse me. You are out of control. Out of control. Out. Get out of here. Get out of here. Smokey. Excuse me, y'all. Come here. Go inside. She just ate all of the food off the altar. My hands up. Ate all the food off the altar. Go inside. Yep, sorry. Life happened. She ate all the food off the altar. But anywho, I have to tell you all about that experience with this dog. So where was I? Somebody tell me the last point. Trust me, I'll get right back in the pocket because I'm hot all over. There was a time basically in my life where there were things, I think I shared this with you all before, some of you before, when I was a little girl, not really little, but when you have ever been molested, particularly when you go to sleep, if you're in the space of wherever the predator is, there may be little coping mechanisms that you have acquired. And so one of the things that I realized when I started to really get free is I was one day, as I was beginning my freedom journey, I was sleeping in my bed, and I would sometimes hold my legs so tight in my bed. I would cross my legs such that my legs would always go to sleep. And I wonder what in the world, why do my legs always go to sleep or get these cramps? And something within, because the answer always lives in the same room with the question. And I was, why do I get these cramps in my legs? And sure enough, Spirit said, well, uncross your legs. I literally had to train myself, and I had been married before. This is when my freedom, starting my real freedom journey. I had been married, and I uncross your legs, LaTanya. And I literally had to teach myself to be able to sleep with freedom, with my legs wide open. And so I'm being graphic intentionally so that you can check in on yourself, because this is where choice starts to come in. Because oftentimes we think that we are making conscious choices, and we're not. A lot of times we're operating on automatic pilot because of whatever it is in our life that redirect us and taught us how to cope in terms of being powerful and significant and showing up in the world. So I want to give you three areas, another way to begin to interrupt and shift this idea of suffering in silence. Thank you for saying that. Thank you for recapping that piece. Of course, when I teach this, I know that I'm not standing alone. I give thanks to my master teacher, Master Coach Ron Davis. Peace and blessings upon him. When he taught me this, it changed my life. I hope that it will do so as yours. There will be some of you who will understand this fully because of the work that you've started. There will be some of you who don't really understand it but take it in anyway at the level that you can, and then ask some questions. Choice number one. Choice number one is conscious choice. It's the choices that and there is a difference, by the way, between choice and decisions. Decisions is to take from. So when you're making a decision, D always means just like divide. It's like division. Think about it. It is to take from. Something has to be taken from another. There's a loss, so to speak. Choice, however, is it operates from an unknown place. Meaning decisions operate a lot of times from options. So a lot of times we think that we are choosing because we have these options, and we're not really choosing. We're making decisions, and that's why a lot of times these decisions leave us feeling like we're losing in our story. But when you begin to choose, you choose from a place of who you have declared yourself to be in the world. And this is why pleasure is so important. Because when you choose pleasure, you are choosing pleasure just because you want it. When you like, this is what I feel for, this is what I desire. You don't have to all the time know why. You don't have to always know what the payoff is going to be. You don't have to know what the punishment is going to be. But you got to be woman enough to own that I'm choosing this for myself right now. And so there's conscious choice. Conscious choice is meaning I am aware. I am aware I'm doing this. I don't know why I'm doing it, but I'm doing it. I don't know how it's going to turn out, but this is the choice that I'm making for myself right now. And a lot of times when we think that we are operating on a high level choice. So remember, I'm talking from the place of high level spiritual choice, sacred choices. And so choice is when I moved to Costa Rica. When I moved to Costa Rica, everybody wanted to know why. And my only answer was, I'm called and I'm answering the call. See, people don't oftentimes understand or accept when you answer the call in your life to something. Sometimes you don't even accept it. And therefore you will fight with the thing that you feel called to because of those old files that you inherited. You will fight with the old paradigm. And many of you would rather live inside the paradigm and play it safe and call yourself, well, I'm going to be the change right here where I am. But sometimes the exodus is necessary for your choice to be an empowered choice. Just like the prodigal son. He made a choice. The prodigal son made a high level choice. I'm going out here. I'm about to do this thing. I'm about to drink this drink. I'm about to smoke this weed. I'm about to do whatever because I want to do this. And many of you have never given yourself the freedom of wanting what you want. You have only wanted based off of insurance policies. Even the savior mindset. You're waiting for somebody to save you. Waiting for something to come and rescue you. We have inherited savior theology. We have inherited knight in shining armor philosophy, even when it comes to love. And so many of us are waiting to be chosen, waiting for this, waiting for that, waiting for this one to change, waiting. This is what I desire. And so you say, well, when I did what I wanted, I made a mess of things. When I did what I wanted, I ended up having an abortion. When I did what I wanted, people suffered. That wasn't a high level choice. That wasn't a high level choice. High level choices is a difference than a low vibrational choice. And even when you make a low vibrational choice, there's a place where love comes in. There's a place where you love yourself and look for even what it is that freed you up. But many of us have spent our lives trying to compensate for the areas where we have not been compensated for in our own life. Whew, Lord have mercy. Then there's choice number 2, choice to the second power. Choice to the second power is an unconscious choice. Choice to the second power, and actually the order of these could change, but I'm just giving you the basics right now. This is definitely a deeper teaching, and I go into it in some of my programs or with some of my clients. And I say this because I learned this in the context of process. So you're hearing it because I have confidence in your journey. Some of you need to hear just certain nuggets and then get in process in some kind of way. So unconscious choice is what it sounds like. Most of what I described around isolation, shutdown, pretending, people pleasing, a lot of these things are unconscious choices. When you start to do this kind of work and you start to become conscious of what's in your file cabinet, not just in the file. See, this is a file, baby. Let me show you a file, baby. See, this is a file. I'm not talking about just a file. This is a file. I'm talking about file cabinets. And so you go and pull out one file, and some of y'all close the file cabinet forever and start suffering in silence. And I'm going to come back to it. I'm going to get to that later. And it's an ongoing process. Okay. So unconscious choice is when you start to go through these files and you audit the files. You go through these files. That's the unconscious. Oh, dang. I didn't know that was here. Oh, look. Special delivery. I received this. What was this? What? Oh, my goodness. What? I didn't know this was here. I've been looking for this. That's when you go into your unconscious. You start to look at how you've been choosing all along. A lot of times we start to say, I don't have a choice. I made this decision, and so now I got to live with it. I don't have a choice. You always have a choice. We're always choosing. We're either choosing consciously or subconsciously or unconsciously, because the next one is the third one, which is subconscious. Now, conscious, unconscious, and subconscious. The subconscious is when we move into a higher way of relating with ourselves. The subconscious requires that you make more conscious choices that you want to affect how you live. And so sometimes you don't know what's subconsciously you've received until you look at the patterns of your life, or until you start to declare what it is that you desire and that you really want for yourself, and until you start asking yourself, why am I doing this, or how did I get here, and then you begin to see what's operating. The good news about the subconscious is you can impress what it is that you want onto the subconscious, and that is where your work comes in. That is where the prayers you pray. This is where the colors you wear. This is where the songs you sing, how you make love, when you make love, who you make love to. This is where all of this begins to show up. How you rear your children, why you have them, how you communicate with them, why you don't have them. This is where you begin to mother yourself. And mothering yourself sounds so easy, but it is the most transformative process a woman can take herself to and through. Because we have been taught that our mother is supposed to be the authority who does it all. But what if we shifted to those people who we chose from another realm of being to be our parents? First of all, we don't believe we chose our parents. That's not a philosophy that many of us are aware of. But when you start to study metaphysics, you start to understand that we choose even before we came in this body. And so if you start to look at, even if it was a no good mother or a no good father, when you look at it from a spiritual awareness of I chose that mother and that father, you start to be careful about how you curse that mother and that father. Because then you start to say, okay, wait a minute. Yeah, I chose it. And because I chose them, it brought forth this experience in my life. And this experience in my life brought forth another way of being. The question always is, how is that serving me now? And if it's not serving you to be how you say you have desired to be, or what you say you desire to have or to do, then you have the opportunity to make another choice. Every day we have the opportunity to make a new choice. Every day, every moment, we have an opportunity. And oftentimes we are operating on automatic pilot, or it's so easy to go back to the regular groove that we have been placed on, rather and if you think of groove, I want you to think about a train that's on the tracks. Those wheels sit on the tracks in a certain kind of way. And often if a train get off track, a lot of times it's called a train wreck. And so a lot of times we are so afraid to get off out of the groove, but that's the only way. The only way to begin to heal and the shift, and the only way to begin to manifest, is you get to choose it. You get to choose it every day, every moment, every hour. You get to choose the unknown, to enter, to go where no man has gone before, not even your parents. You get to ask questions. You get to choose it. And a lot of times we are managing pain and resisting pleasure at every turn. And certainly purpose. Let's not even begin to start talking about this idea that many of us are operating in purpose. Most of us have been taught how to be in survival mode, or blame and projection. And so when something comes to interrupt, you want something to come to interrupt. You want, just even the dog eating off the altar was an interruption. It was an interruption, but at the same time, I chose to leave it uncovered. When my spirit guide said, put something on top of this. You're not going to be looking in a moment. I was told what to do, but I didn't do it. I chose to trust. And so I realized I can't trust the little thing, the little four-legged, because her nature is going to be her nature. Her nature is, I smell something, I'm a hunter. And so a lot of times we want things to operate out of its nature because we're operating out of our nature. We're operating out of our nature when it comes to God. We're operating out of our nature when it comes to love, when it comes to sex and money. And if you want evidence, look at the statistics. If traditional marriage was working, why are the statistics the rate that it is right now? If our state as a people was working with a church on every corner, teaching the same thing that the slave master taught us, if that was working, then why would our children be killed in cold blood in the street? Why would a child be killed for walking down the street with Skittles? Why would a grown man who was selling tapes or whatever? Why would somebody, this latest one, be shot dead and they thought the so-called had a cell phone? No, 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 y'all. And the woman is the key. Because if we don't start making some conscious choices to the first power, the second power, and the third power, we're holding an inheritance that is of much, much more pain than what it is of paradise and pleasure. It's time for us to ask some questions. It's time for us to dive into the deep. And it's time to do it by choice, not by force. You don't have to choose the route of waiting for your life to be in disarray. You don't have to choose to do it when you're mad at the church for mistreating you. You don't have to do it when your man goes out and does whatever he does when you knew that you were unequally yoked in the first place. You don't have to wait until your child gets up and raises his or her hand or bites the hand that feeds him when you know that you contributed to some of the ways that your children acted or act. Just own it. Because when you can own the shadow, you can stand fully in the light. When you can own the shadow, you can stand fully in the light. Because your shadow is not something that is a curse. Your shadow is not your curse. You cursing the shadow is your curse. Because you can't have light without a shadow. Because when it's light on this side of the planet, it's dark on another. But that don't mean that the shadow is wrong. It just means that it's dark. And you are women. You operate in the womb consciousness. The womb is dark. The womb is dark. This is where creation comes from. This is the dark matter. And black women, you are the dark matter. So you never should fear the dark. And this is why melanin is magic. And even if there is a white woman listening, the only way the planet is going to heal is when they understand how much they are our children. So if we look at the so-called white man, I'm going to shut my mouth on this. If we look at this, we give the white man too much power when we created him. They came from us. Oh, you don't know your history? You don't understand the lineages? Oh, baby, go study your Bible in the tribes. You can't have Zebulun and Judah, the tribe of Judah. Oh, go study your tribes, the 12 tribes. You understand the 12 tribes? Okay, well, this beast comes from one of them. And the biggest trick that has been I should that the broadcast is being interrupted because that's probably some things that I need to say in a more private setting. And that's the other thing to understand when it comes to sacred. Everything when it comes to the goddess and when it comes to women is not supposed to be out in the open. So I love you, and there's nothing you can do about it. We are going into She Magic money for the month of April, the last month on money. The next 4 months will be on She Magic sex and sexuality. Oh yeah, it's going to get real juicy in the She Magic monthly coaching clinics. And we're getting ready to launch a new rites of passage process. The rites of passage process, if you are not already in the Juicy You or an alumna of the Juicy Spirit alumni, the Womanhood Rites of Passage program, you have to either be referred, or interviewed in order to qualify to be in the Rites of Passage program. So there are some opportunities, but I'm excited about what is about to be birthed. There, every time I run the program, I update it, and I'm going to be bringing in some new features, and I'm looking for a way that the alumna can participate in the process, audit it in different ways. So if you're interested in any of this, She Magic Money, She Magic, the coaching clinics, or you would like to be a part of the rites of passage process, reach out to me. You know how to do it. ReBirthInternational.net. A pop-up will appear, and you can schedule a conversation with me, and or you can inbox me. So I love you, and there's nothing you can do about it. I'll see you on the other side. Ciao, everyone. Thank you for hanging in.